The war is no longer just on Ukrainian soil. It has reached the gates of Putin's stronghold, St. Petersburg. On the morning of October 7th, the detonation of a railway track on the Stroganovo-Mshinskaya line in Russia's Leningrad Oblast caused a locomotive and several cars of a military cargo train to derail. Russian authorities suspended services on the Stroganovo-Mshinskaya line due to technical reasons. However, this was not a simple accident or technical error. It was a well-planned, systematic act of sabotage. A source from Ukrainian military intelligence, HUR, told Kyiv Independent that a train carrying military cargo in Russia's Leningrad Oblast derailed following an explosion on the morning of October 7th. According to sources, the explosion on the Stroganovo-Mshinskaya railway line caused the locomotive and several cars to derail. It was reported that the operation was carried out by local partisans and that train traffic between St. Petersburg and Pskov was temporarily paralyzed. However, this was not a simple act of sabotage. It was a surgical strike on one of the main arteries leading to the brain of Russia's war machine. When Vladimir Putin launched his attack on Ukraine, he relied on this fundamental military principle: the unshakable power of the Soviet Union's vast railway network. This network, encircling the country with tens of thousands of kilometers of steel arteries, was a vital circulatory system feeding the war machine. But events in Leningrad Oblast revealed that this system had contracted a deadly disease. This act is the second incident on the same line in 3 weeks. On September 14th, Leningrad Oblast Governor Alexander Drozdenko reported that 3 cars of an empty freight train had derailed on the Stroganovo-Mshinskaya line, and investigators began looking into the possibility of sabotage. It later emerged that 15 cars had derailed. The genius of a sabotage act lies not in the magnitude of the explosion it creates, but in the strategic vulnerability of its target. To understand this attack in Leningrad Oblast, we must first examine with surgical precision the how and where of the explosion. Because this section of railway, chosen as the target, was not a random line in Russia's vast network, it was one of the most vital arteries supplying the Russian army's northern front in Ukraine, a logistical superhighway. To call this line the St. Petersburg-Pskov corridor would be to understate its importance. It is in fact a factory front express. St. Petersburg and its surroundings, the northern end of the route, are not only a cultural capital, but also one of the strongholds of the Russian military-industrial complex. The massive facilities here include legendary armored vehicle manufacturers such as the Kirov factory, shipyards producing ship and submarine parts such as Stroganovo, and countless ammunition factories producing tens of thousands of artillery shells and rockets. Since the war began, these factories have been operating in 3 shifts, working non-stop to meet the insatiable appetite of the front lines. Every new T-90 tank produced, every modernized BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicle, every crate of 152mm howitzer shells is loaded onto railway wagons in this city. The southern end of the line, Pskov, is a strategic launch pad. Pskov is the main base of the 76th Guards Airborne Division, one of Russia's most elite units. Due to its proximity to the Ukrainian border and its strategic location relative to Belarus, this city is a massive logistics hub, a staging ground where troops, equipment, and ammunition are gathered, sorted, and organized before being dispatched to the front. This theoretical chaos in the logistics network has very concrete and bloody consequences on the Ukrainian front. War does not wait. For a commander on the front line, the word delay is synonymous with defeat or death. Therefore, the St. Petersburg-Pskov line is the main nerve pathway between the brain, where production takes place, and the muscles where the war is fought. When this line is cut, it is not just a transportation route that is severed, but also the flow of commands from the brain of the Russian war machine to its limbs. Those who planned this attack knew very well that they were not targeting a random piece of track, but the most sensitive, most vital point of this nervous system, a nerve node. This action proved that Russia's strategic depth is an illusion, and that even its heart is vulnerable to attack. So who carried out this sabotage? The answer to this question is Russia's darkest strategic nightmare, because this blow did not come from outside, from NATO missiles or a daring cross-border operation by Ukrainian special forces. This blow came from within the system itself, from the veins of the Russian Federation. The army of this new front is not uniformed. It consists of ghosts, namely the Kremlin's invisible army. To understand the perpetrators behind this action, we must escape the shallowness of Kremlin propaganda that labels them simply as aggressors or traitors. Open-source intelligence analyses and leaked reports from Western security services reveal a much more complex and dangerous picture. This is not a hierarchical structure managed from a single center. It is a decentralized, cellular network with different motivations, but united by a common goal. And orchestrating this network is a master conductor operating in the shadows, the Main Intelligence Directorate of Ukraine, or HUR. However, viewing HUR's role as that of a puppeteer would be a strategic myopia. HUR does not create these resistance cells from scratch. Rather, it strategically plants seeds in the cracks of deep dissatisfaction and anger that already exist within Russia itself. They are merely providing water and fertilizer to this fertile ground. Targeted intelligence, training materials on sophisticated sabotage techniques, secure communication channels, and perhaps most importantly, the promise of hope that their actions will not be in vain. The anatomy of this invisible army is precisely what makes it a nightmare for the FSB. It is a deadly combination of at least 3 distinct elements. The first, and perhaps the most dangerous, is the rot within the system. Former soldiers purged from the army and security services, stripped of their rank, or simply weary of the horrors of war. Consider a former airborne soldier who fought in Ukraine and witnessed his comrades die due to poor planning. This person possesses not only ideological motivation, but also deadly technical expertise. Knowing how to find the weakest points in railway lines, how to decipher the schedule of a military convoy, and how to place explosives for maximum impact. They are the ones who speak the language of the system to destroy the system itself. Second are ideologically motivated civilian resistance cells. These are Russian citizens who see Putin's regime as a cancerous cell for Russia's future and accept this war as a painful but necessary surgical intervention to save the country. This group could include a university student from St. Petersburg, an IT specialist from Moscow, or an environmental activist from Siberia. The manifestos of groups like the Legion of Freedom of Russia or the National Republican Army show that these cells are rebelling not only against the war, but against the Kremlin's entire apparatus of oppression, corruption, and imperial ambitions. The third and most unpredictable layer consists of opportunists within the local population, those seeking personal revenge or simply agents financed by Ukraine. A railway worker who has been working for years at RZD on a low salary and subjected to mobbing could leak the passage time of a critical train in exchange for a small fortune. This hybrid structure makes standard FSB profiling and infiltration operations nearly impossible. Every railway worker, every local official, every former soldier is a potential suspect. And this paranoia is an acid eating away at the state's nervous system from within. So how was this strategic target destroyed? Data from crime scene investigations and leaked initial reports indicate that the action was driven not by amateur rage, but by professional methodology. This was not a simple arson or a basic homemade explosive device, i.e., an IED attack. Investigations by open-source railway experts and explosives analysts reveal several critical details. First, the location where the explosive was placed. The attack was not carried out on a straight and easily repairable section of the track, but rather at the exit of a curve, at a point where the track passes over a slight embankment. This is a fundamental rule in railway engineering. The most effective way to derail a train is to destabilize it on a curve where lateral forces are most intense. This choice maximized the kinetic impact of the explosion, causing not just a few cars, but the entire train to overturn due to the locomotive's momentum, collapsing like an accordion. Second, the nature of the explosive used. The extent of the damage, particularly the bending and deformation of the rails, suggests that a quantity designed to create a more specific effect on metal was used, rather than a standard military explosive. It is possible that thermite mixtures or shaped charges, explosives that not only break the rails but also melt them with high heat, making repair nearly impossible, were used. The aim was not just to cause immediate damage, but to render the line unusable for days, even weeks. Third, the timing. Cross-analysis of leaked unofficial railway manifests and telegram channels belonging to partisan groups strongly suggests that the targeted train was not a random freight train, but one carrying high-value military cargo, such as armored vehicles or large-caliber ammunition. The saboteurs may have aimed not only to cut the line, but also to destroy or delay millions of dollars worth of critical military equipment headed for the front in a single action. This level of operational intelligence strongly suggests the possibility of inside help, likely from a mole within Russian railways or a military logistics unit. When these details are pieced together, the signature becomes clear. This action was not a spur-of-the-moment impulse, but the product of weeks of reconnaissance, planning, and preparation. The perpetrators knew not only where to strike, but also how and when. It was like the touch of a ghost, silent, precise, and deadly effective. The true impact of an attack on a railway line cannot be measured by the bent metal and craters at the scene. The real impact is measured by the ripple effect. Just like the rings created on the surface of a lake by a stone thrown into it, reaching the farthest shores, this single explosion in the Leningrad Oblast created shockwaves in the entire Russian logistics and military system, each more destructive than the last. The first and most direct result of the explosion was the immediate and complete shutdown of the entire line. This means that not only the damaged section, but also hundreds of kilometers of track entering and exiting that corridor froze instantly. Railway logistics is a massive mechanism that operates with precise timing. Every train has a schedule, every switch has a sequence. This attack brought down a sledgehammer on the heart of that mechanism, stopping it instantly. Dozens of military and civilian trains heading south from St. Petersburg were stranded where they were. In a normal scenario before the attacks, a train leaving a munitions factory in St. Petersburg on Monday would reach a distribution point near the front via Pskov by Wednesday afternoon at the latest. That's a 48-hour journey. But because of this attack, the train that left on Monday first waited for hours where it was, then was diverted onto slow and inefficient secondary tracks. Perhaps due to another train's breakdown, it was stuck in a holding pocket for another 12 hours. At best, that ammunition will never reach the front before Friday, or perhaps even the beginning of the following week. This means a 48-hour journey has been extended to 120 hours. So, what does an extra 3 days delay to the front line mean? It means an artillery battery, running critically low on ammunition, cannot respond to an enemy attack. It means a tank brigade, running out of fuel, must cancel a planned counterattack and remain on the defensive. It means that fresh troops to be sent to the front will be stuck waiting for weeks because their equipment hasn't arrived. This single act of sabotage may have cost the lives of dozens of soldiers, led to the loss of a critical hill, or ended a potentially successful offensive before it even began. Every hour of delay in logistics is paid for with blood on the front lines. Another often overlooked link in the ripple effect is the devastating impact on the non-military, civilian economy. Russia's railway network is central not only to the army, but also to the country's economic lifeblood. Main corridors like the St. Petersburg-Pskov line also carry raw materials for factories, food for markets, and commodities for export. Because military trains are given priority, civilian cargo transportation has been hit hardest by this crisis. Hundreds of commercial trains face delays that could last for weeks. This means a break in production chains. An automobile factory may have to halt production because steel rolls did not arrive on time. A food processing plant may become inoperable due to products not arriving from the fields. This situation creates additional pressure on the Russian economy, which is already under severe stress from war and sanctions. Shortages begin, prices rise, and inflationary pressure increases. More importantly, this incident fundamentally undermines confidence in Russian railways. RZD is one of the world's largest railway companies and is built on reliability. Such an attack demonstrates that the company cannot fulfill its most fundamental promise: to deliver cargo safely and on time. This could cause companies to turn to road or sea transport, which may be more expensive but perhaps more reliable, instead of rail, both domestically and especially in foreign trade with partners such as China. This is not just a delay, but a heavy blow to the system's reputation and long-term economic health. It is a slow but steady economic hemorrhage, the effects of which will be felt for months, even years. The explosion has shattered not only the rails but also the foundation of trust and predictability upon which the Russian economy rests. Ultimately, the destruction of this railway line in Leningrad Oblast will not remain an isolated incident in the course of the war. It is a turning point in history, a symbol of the moment Russia began bleeding inward. This attack has proven three brutal truths to us. This derailed train is only the beginning. The real danger lies in the inspiration and courage this act will instill in other resistance cells. Every successful action issues an invitation for the next. This is not just a train that has derailed. This is the Putin regime itself, slowly, noisily, and irreversibly derailing under the immense weight of the war it created and the hatred it sowed among its own people. And only time will tell whether a new Russia or greater chaos will emerge from this wreckage. But one thing is certain: the war has come home, and nothing will ever be the same again. So, what are your thoughts on this? Please share your thoughts in the comments. To stay updated on new videos, please subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications. Thank you for watching.